That date, humanity almost disappears. Real case. How do you think the end of humanity? By nuclear war, by a deadly virus, by an alien invasion, or by the fall of a meteorite? Maybe all of them can take us to the end. But incredible, there was an occasion in which the human being almost disappeared and everything was caused by the same planet. Disturbing, but true. Lake Toba is located in the north of Sumatra, Indonesia, and there approximately 70,000 years ago, the most intensive volcanic explosion on the last 25 million years took place. And the explosion was level A, which corresponds to a supervolcanic explosion, which is described by experts as mega-colossal or apocalyptic. I know that it is difficult to understand, but to try to understand the magnitude of this explosion, let's make comparisons. The Santa Elena volcano displaced only 1 cubic kilometer of land when it exploded, while the Vesuvia volcano that buried Pompeii displayed 5 cubic kilometers. On the other hand, the famous Krakatoa volcano, which explosion was felt globally, displayed 12 cubic kilometers. Now, the Toba volcano explosion displays approximately 1,800 cubic kilometers. I know the comparison is somehow brutal. Let's look at it another way. We consider the following. When Santa Elena volcano erupted, realized the equivalent of 24 energy megatons. Well, the Toba was 3,000 times more powerful. If you multiply 20 by 3,000, you get a figure of 72,000 energy megatons. I know that may not sound like anything, but now let's make this comparison with the Hiroshima nuclear bomb. Well, the Toba was like if they had exploded 4,008,000 Hiroshima bombs, and that's because the Hiroshima bomb had only 0.015 megatons. In addition to Toba explosion, released 10,000 millions of tons of sulfuric acid and 6,000 millions of tons of sulfuric dioxide. This is in the atmosphere. That is why the whole world really live in apocalypse. And is that after the explosion, the entire planet from one moment to another live in eternal winter, which lasts 6 years. This winter was characterized by a decrease in the average temperature of the 37 to 41 Fahrenheit in the lower latitudes, but at the poles the temperature dropped 5 Fahrenheit. Although the drop temperature lasted only 6 years, temperature was not restored until the next 1,000 years. The worst part is that there was a huge global drought that lasted another 1,000 years. Also, after the explosion, the winds of the entire planet filled with ashes, and it will take years for it to clean up, so that before the moment the explosion is estimated to average 100,000 to 300,000 human beings living in the world, but all of them began to die. First, people who were near to volcano, or well, not so close, because with an explosion so big, even if you were enclosed anyway, you will die. After that, those who survived had to face the coldest temperatures of the last 100,000 years, with a brutal drought that leads hundreds of years, which made the food disappear from one moment to another, as plants and animals became extinct. So after the volcano exploded, soon after only 1,000 people remained. Yes, only 1,000 human beings, since the other hundreds of thousands had died. And just think, currently in the world, there are more than 7,000 million people. Can you imagine what with the planet if there were only thousands people left? Yes, at the moment humanity was about to completely disappear and be forgotten in the planet history. It was then that there was an important migration, perhaps the most important in the history of humanity, called the outgoing migration from Africa. And it has between 350,000 people decide that they could no longer live in the place. That's why they considered that in other lands they will find more resources. So they crossed the Red Sea to Arabian, and then gradually they were spreading all over the world, completely populating. Thus very few people suffering terrible cold, darkness, by the hush of the air, that hunger for not having food. Science, there were no animal in planets. They fight and survive to the biggest volcano explosion. Yes, and those in 315,000 ancestors are those who populate the world, and thanks to them and their courage we are here. The worrying thing is that if happens, we are going to have same results. Science, if a terrible volcano like the Toba erupts, we could do absolutely nothing, and maybe on this new occasion, humanity ends forever. It is in this way that although we are afraid of a virus, an alien attack, and a third world war, or an asteroid in the end, what was about to destroy us was our own Mother Earth, this planet that is under our feet, that from one moment to another, it just tired and show us that we are absolutely nothing. Can you just imagine? A volcanic explosion which was so brutal that is equal to 4,800,000 of Hiroshima bombs, that lowered the temperature of the planet several degrees, that caused a great darkness because the earth filled with ash and you couldn't see anything, that killed thousands or millions of animal species and vegetables, that reduced the population to just 1,000 people. Imagine that this will happen again. Even it sounds disturbing, could happen in a year, tomorrow, or even in a few moments. Yes, even if it sounds hard to believe it, that is what about to extinguish us, it was our own planet.